If you love something enough, you'll find a way to do it, no matter what the consequences are or what it costs you. It's something that just doesn't happen overnight. I spend a lot of time trying to get to where I'm at. Nobody told me how to do it, and there's no book out there you can buy to read about it. And that's how people get in these situations, taking chances.
There's a lot of characteristics that really make him a master of this sport, you know, free falling downhill in a semi-controlled manner.
I think mainly his style on the snow is just super smooth.
He has a lot of composure, and he's really, really graceful, but yet aggressive. And
definitely one of the best skiers I've ever seen.
Growing up watching some of the movies and magazines and stuff, you know, everything portrayed Seth as this totally wild character. I think the first time I met him in the course of an hour, he probably only said 4 or 5 words. Man, like his skiing, it totally intertwines with his personality. You know, we'll be standing on a peak and won't hardly say anything, and all of a sudden he goes and launches a 120-foot back.
I can't really think of any others that's been around for that long that are still on top.
He started in '93. I was born in '92, so I mean I was 1 when Seth got started, and 20 years later he's still one of the biggest names in the sport.
Years down the road, after you start doing something you love, it's not going to be the same. I just didn't think about making a living out of it. It's given me the opportunity to do a lot of cool things and see a lot of cool places and meet a lot of cool people. But it was a lot more fun when it was a lot more of a simple life.
you know, relationships suffer, your mental stability suffers sometimes.
You constantly have to be trying to perform better, do as much work as you possibly can promotion-wise. Otherwise, somebody else is going to take your job.
For any athlete in any sport, that as you get older, you start becoming concerned about younger athletes coming in that are as talented as you, if not more talented. So you got to reinvent yourself. You have to constantly bring new things to the table, and skiing allows that because it's such a dynamic sport.
Doing what you love is absolutely amazing, but at the same time it's frustrating and it's aggravating, and you know, there's joyous moments and moments of elation, and there's so many different emotions that come into play when you're dealing with something that you love.
You don't have to do what everyone else is doing, and you know, if they're doing something that maybe you can't do, you can go out and do something different, and you know, that's just as cool, if not cooler.
I think a lot of people who stay in the game for a long period of time just have that mentality. They want to do something out of the norm, to go against the grain of what everybody else is doing.
Someone said there should be a mother of extreme skier counseling group. You know, I don't know, but I never knew other mothers that had kids that were doing these things. I never dreamed he would go in a direction like this.
If you love something enough, you'll find a way to do it, no matter what the consequences are or what it costs you. And that's how people get in these situations, taking chances.
Stepped into the air in town, you can feel like the instant vibe of everything that's happened here. This is where steep skiing began, ski alpinism, mountaineering, all that stuff has started right here in this valley.
And here we go.
That's our guide, Nate Wallace.
He's Nate, there's nothing like it. There's no other American that lives in Sham that's as shamified as he is.
The skiers are happy, the snowboarders, and then look, the people come here on holiday, look at, they're just blown away.
Nate, j'ai rencontré comme ça du jour au lendemain et on m'avait parlé de Crazy Nate. Je fais ok, machin et tout, et en fait c'est vrai que Nate il a un tempérament comme tous les Américains quoi, à charger, et que par contre il a un respect, c'est vrai, pour l'historique et l'histoire de Cham surtout.
That's the first time I met Nate. He's been showing us around the mountain. Not necessarily a guide, but more of a mountain freak, I'd say.
Lock and load, send the kid in.
A good guy to be with here in the mountains. He knows this place like the back of his hand.
And on this trip, I mean, we're here to ski and have a good time and good skiing, and that's the bottom line.
I knew all about Seth, but I never met him. You'd expect with all the flamboyant skiing he does and the crazy stunts that he pulls that he'd be kind of aggressive, aggro, and I'm gonna kill it. And no.
Even entry-level Chamonix skiing, you could kill yourself here. There's nobody telling you you can't go over the edge, and people just all over the place doing different things. It's pretty crazy.
The amount of fatalities in this valley is super high compared to any other normal ski area. And the Serac Falls, Verbeschruns, the crevasses, every single day, every time you ski, you're skiing under something, over something that's out of your control.
Kai and JP showed up. Despite being some of the best skiers in the world, there was no way I was going to feed them to the wolves right away and be like, oh yeah, we'll just go rock into the biggest, heaviest run and rip it up. Anytime you get into mountains where there's so many objective risks, skiing is really no longer, enough. It really helps to be a great skier, but that won't take you very far.
Skiing is only 1/3 of the whole picture, and the rest of it's climbing and just basically getting through the mountains and surviving.
The guys got to know their stuff. They got to know what they're doing with their ropes. They got to know their ice axes and crampons. I mean, they got to know what they're getting into. We're just here in Sargent's here Basin at a climbing area called the Creamery, and we're all out here in our ski boots and our ski clothes, and we're just kind of using the equipment and make sure we got it all dialed.
It's just going to be good practice for what we might encounter when we're alpine skiing.
So like a figure eight, or like if you can't even remember that, if you're ever like shit's hitting the fan or if you need to clip in, you just grab the rope. This isn't just an overhand, just like this.
It was designed to get people up to the mountains, enjoy the scenery. They've gone out of their way to make the mountains accessible. Granted, the Aiguille du Midi is a little bit...
How's it going?
Yeah, you look like you're ready for the Midi.
If the Aiguille du Midi wasn't here, this place wouldn't be as special. The access this lift gives you to the mountains is unparalleled. 9,200 vertical feet, takes you from a little over 3,000 to over 12,000 feet. It puts you into the mountains, like real deep, high mountains, in a half an hour.
They're going to be here, the rope's going to be right here.
I think it's a good idea then.
But it might be hitting the rope. You'll be hitting your rope with that.
And B, it required a lot of rope work. You're literally walking out the doors, you set your ropes, and you start rappelling in. No one feels comfortable. I've done it many times for climbs, and I still get nervous.
I've never done any kind of rappels like that before, where you rappel down to another rappel, and you're free hanging right away.
Yeah. Couldn't really see much. I was trying to look around.
We had a bit of an idea what the snow was like. We looked in there and we were able to do 2 full-length rappels.
And then you got to down climb through a little technical section of snow and rock.
The beers will taste good tonight.
You had fear, you had joy, excitement, relief, all melded into one. Just one of those experiences that I haven't felt in a long, long time.
That was pretty cool to see his face and a different expression than I've ever seen it before.
Yeah, it was sweet. I'm glad we did that. Everybody had a smile on their face.
He was shamified for sure after that run.
Germany proud! Germany mon front!
Doing this kind of sport hasn't never been really about the money. It's more about the fun of it. Scaring yourself and challenging yourself. It's just trying to find out who you are and what you're capable of doing.
We're on, guys! Come on out! Okay, just hang him back up there at the green.
I'm in a very similar situation as Seth. I mean, we don't come from much, and me and Callum, we had a single mom all growing up, and when we moved to Whistler, yeah, we were just getting by. You know, we were living in a basement suite. We were all 3 of us sharing a room. It was me, my brother, and my mom living in Whistler, and my dad living on the complete other side of the country. It's tough for every kid not to have their dad around at all, but we found the way to substitute that with the mountain. That was our father figure, I guess you could say. It was almost this place for us to go where we didn't have to think about anything else. There was no problems on the mountain. It was all about fun, and we thrived to just ski with our friends and learn from each other. That was the best part. It was not having anyone tell you what to do, and for you to be able to go out there and do your thing with your friends was the greatest thing in the world.
Our style of skiing is very different than a lot of other types of skiing or any sport in general where you're dealing with a competitive atmosphere.
The bodies governing the sport, they were not catering to these people who were into doing stuff more freely.
You know, those guys, the only way they could understand skiing and as a job, they figured it needed to be competition-based and there had to be a win.
Free skiing was like the wild, wild west, man. It was totally new. There was no rules. There was no career path. There was no one telling you, this is what you got to do.
It was a complete leap of faith with really no guarantee of...
Seriously, especially myself, because I was 19 years old when I started doing this. It was just hard to try to get your foot in the door and convince these guys that this is what was new and what was happening. Officers would just think it was a joke what you were doing. You would be wearing their clothing and they'd have you, all right, make a turn around this little tree or stand over here, jump off of that. It was a country club kind of a sport, pretty much for the elite. Asking you to do things for them. You're starting to get photos in the magazines and they're starting to promote their products, but they're not giving you anything in return except for the for the free gear, and you're having to work all summer to pay off your winter or save up for the next winter. You don't know what the future holds. Like, maybe you're not playing the poker hand right, but at that point it's a decision of, should I continue trying to be this, or
I was kind of surprised that my first couple of days skiing here, I actually had never skied snow that bad before. But you know, after a couple of days out there in the field with these guys, no one's complaining. Everyone's coming home all smiling. We're having great days, and pretty much having the best filming that we've had on the trip.
It's my first real trip to Chamonix, and I've only been here like 10 days.
I was more intimidated than I thought at first, and then I felt more comfortable than I would have expected right after.
Good, Nate's already at the bottom. Almost ready to shop. No one can come here and be a rock star. Everybody's one with the mountains. Everyone's a little ant on a fucking sidewalk, you know what I'm saying?
I hear Kai, he's trying to come down to life. He's half Canadian, half like prehistoric dinosaur raptor. Like he just attacks it.
You're in the raddest place on earth doing what you want to be doing, and I don't think there's any other level of ecstasy you can be on.
The boys love it! We love it!
You come here and you're content because you know it's the finale of what you want to be doing if you're a mountain lover, you know. 3, 2, 1, drop it! When I came here the first day, I was shamified to the max, and you see people like Nate that live here, and they're wild characters they're all shamified, right? So that's what we call it. There's so many peaks that I haven't skied. I think sham enlightened my vision of trying to spend the rest of my life skiing, but I think it was always there.
See, it's JP. Okay. Air. Yeah.
I come from Quebec City. I'm a freestyle kid. That's my background. The more I would travel and the more I would see the mountains, the more I'd be drawn away from the park and more towards the mountain. I never really stopped to think about my goals and stuff, but I constantly had new interests and appetite for exploration and discovery, and I think it's awesome.
The top of the Cristo, the flat one?
No, the Cristo. And then there goes the Le Court, Le Droit, and Le Vert.
Le Vert is the tallest?
Yeah.
Et en plus, l'évolution du hors-piste, c'est pas en 2 ans que tu deviens bon, quoi. C'est toute une vie, quoi. Et même à la fin de ta vie, tu peux même pas dire que t'es bon. Que t'as toujours à apprendre, toujours, et donc ouais, c'est ça.
Just kind of started getting the feeling of that I was just being used all the time for what we were doing. After a while, it's like, you know, I want to ski, but
And you didn't know what was going to come of it because nobody that you were involved with was making any money either. I was almost completely over what I was doing, and boom, got the payday that I was looking for. Was like, I'm going on a film trip. Well, I thought I was borrowing it, but then it turns out you're technically stealing the car. I had full intent of bringing it back. They got gear, lots of powder. People were bragging about how good it was all the time. And I felt pretty alienated.
Then you have all that creative energy, and you have like all these ideas and things you want to do that you see with your mind, and your body is just like not functioning. And if you're trapped and you can't do sports, then all the other issues in your life are really going to be coming at you.
You know, relationships suffer, your mental stability suffers.
Everybody thinks like you're some star, but you feel like a loser, and catch up for the things that you missed.
Pretty easy to just start partying every night. And
if you're hurt for a while, and if you have like a big injury or a chronic injury, then you become really scared for your own security. Cause
everything that we were doing was just kind of blossoming, and the X Games started. There was skier cross, and big air events, and they started building parks that a lot of skiers kind of put me 2 seasons back in a sense. It was tough to not be a part of it because I was just sitting on the sidelines watching it all happen.
First time I went skiing was on a sledding hill in Des Plaines, Illinois. Just being able to stand up on something and fly down the mountain looked like a cool idea. We had some little red plastic skis in the crawl space with aluminum poles, and pretty much you just strapped your feet right onto the skis. There was no bindings or anything. It was just a little strap set up. You didn't care how cold it was. You didn't care if it was icy. Just exploring. When I was 6, my parents got divorced. My father, pretty much split. We never really saw him ever again.
Because he was the one who knew his biological father the most.
Or after the separation, so it was pretty much my mom and my brother and I.
We moved out to Colorado when I was 10 years old, after living in Wisconsin for 4 years. Just being in Vail is pretty expensive as it is. Just
doubled to move out here.
It was tough just to be able to get gear, really. The ski swap that they do at the beginning of the season.
You know, you just trade off. You go without some things, so.
He really could have gone in any direction when our parents.
The best part about it was
you know, there'd be 200 boys skiing, and he would always be in the top 20, and sometimes he was in the top 10. He was pretty good as a ski racer.
Once high school rolled around, I was getting out numerous days a week, half day of school every day.
Some of the teachers would say that he's not going to be a skier when he grows up. He needs to have a job and work part-time to try and contribute toward that, which he didn't do. So I think he was pretty much starving and just skiing.
Being away from the house, you know, I was focused on ski, and that's all I wanted to do.
He became more and more and more intense and more.
It gave him self-confidence. It gave him something that a lot of kids never see.
If he had something to prove, he was proving it, and he wanted to do it as well as he could.
Well, the level of racing that I was at is basically what takes you into being on the U.S. ski team. It was the go, 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 win, win, win environment. Whatever you were doing, you weren't trying hard enough. And you even had some ski coaches telling you you should quit and go do something else. Punk rocker friends had turned me on to the colored hair, you know, got me my first color, which was purple, and I just kind of stuck. When it came time for the Custom Beat Extremes,
nobody knew who I was, nobody had any idea how I could ski.
Like, you could do anything and make anything happen, and that's kind of what doing that extreme event was like. That's pretty much changed the course of my life, because I tied for second, sort of the dark horse. You know, after that, it was boom, filming it for Warren Miller. It was cool to be getting that attention at the age of 19. Kind of the first time where everything worked out. Pretty much being selfish, but that's kind of runs with the territory of being in this kind of situation where you're just trying to stay alive. It's never good enough, whatever I'm doing. As far as the father end of it, maybe there was, you know, confusion or disappointment, but at a certain point in time, that was all forgotten.
He couldn't even see the runs. I don't even think he wanted to look at them. The last thing he wanted to do was ski them.
What's so unique is the fact that you can step right off the tram.
Just look out those windows in that tram and say, hey, look at that, there's a ski line there, and I can ski that. You know, the North Face is kind of exclusive, something that's just so wild and so dangerous.
We wanted to maybe ski in the sun, but we were worried about the clouds. We got there early. The sun wasn't going to happen. Clouds were coming, so we decided to go ahead and go in.
Off the top, you had to rappel during the top ice pitch. So we found a nice anchor, tied 2 70-meter ropes together, and pretty much sent Dave in first. Dave takes off, a little hesitant at first.
Made a couple cautious turns. Snow was fantastic. Maybe like 8 to 12 inches of like blow or pow on top of black ice.
And then he starts opening it up into some bigger turns. We're like, okay, hey, it looks good. Time to go. Kind of look over at Seth, and I can see that his hands are shaking.
It was body numbing, just knowing where you're going and what's involved.
Now we're about ready to rappel another 70 meters into a very narrow, very steep couloir. And it snowed the night before. The day before was bad weather, and there was no wind. It was a beautiful, beautiful starlit morning. You know, conditions were feeling good. We weren't having heavy wind.
Reminded me of the time before. And every time I was looking up there, I was just, and at the same time, just kind of wondering if it's going to knock off any rocks.
I wouldn't say the vibe was, everybody was paying attention and really alert.
Last time we were here, there was about a meter fresh of snow, and the slough was really, really scary. You know, pretty much had to turn around before this ice pitch. And today we still had some slough, but you know, it'll last, able to work it. Oh, stairway up here.
It might take weeks, it might take years. If you're patient enough and if you're persistent enough.
That's fun. Scary as hell.
Some of that stuff maybe, Seth? Or you want to look for something better? Well, I used to get a lot of flying around. It's just like, you know, on the ground here.
He's one of the most humble skiers to be out in the mountains with, and I think coming to Sham probably humbled him even more, but also made him more rowdy at the same time.
Bottom line, in any sport, very few people make it. There's just so many factors that can take you down, that can bring you down. We celebrate the guys that have made it. They're a big deal.
Yes,
I'm up here driving Snowcat at Ritalik, and I was driving Seth around the last 7 days, and just thought I'd write a final poem for the film. Here we go. Another tour ends with Seth and the cat. Seth's in first again. How about that? Filmers, photographers, and all the guides load up and get in and settle inside. Thinking back of trips with Seth in the past, making more memories to last. Strong individual, one of a kind, talent and humility, a rare combination to find. Living on his own terms, not always an option. Sacrifice and challenge pursue. A pure love for skiing and constant believing will always see him through. Life is simple. Seth follows his passion. When you dedicate yourself, great things will happen. At the end of the day, if he looks in the mirror, a reflection of the ordinary skier.